Hey everybody, welcome back to yet another episode of the DecompresSean Cast, episode 9. This is, coming out a little late, and I do apologize, but it's that time of the month. Y'all need some updates on stuff and things, and, I appreciate everyone listening to these things, checking in, seeing what I'm up to. So I'll just talk about the stuff, the things, things I've been passionate about lately. And then, of course, later on, we'll get into updates, among other things. So what have I been up to? What are some things I've binged, some media I've consumed over the last little while that I've enjoyed, I guess. So one thing that I did was I read the entire manga of what is out so far for Record of Ragnarok, or Shumatsu no Valkyrie, I think. And that's a pretty fun one. It's kind of like your core sort of shonen-y stuff of, it's a fighting manga, and it's about humans, the best of humanity versus gods. And obviously as someone who likes, that kind of stuff, gods, myths, legends, etc., etc. That's pretty fun for me, obviously. I play Smite, and that's another thing as well I might talk about a little here, is in addition to catching up on A Record of Ragnarok, which I do enjoy a pretty decent amount, in all honesty. The art and everything in that is pretty sick. So I kind of understand why Record of Ragnarok comes out like monthly, I think. Honestly, I'm not even sure. But there's only like 46 chapters out right now. So it would be a pretty quick read, and I highly recommend it. If anyone's looking for a, manga to read, I would say. But yeah, Smite. Smite's a thing I've been doing a lot lately, and I've kind of rediscovered my love for the game in that it didn't really go anywhere as much as I went elsewhere, Smite was, I think, the first game I downloaded on my first computer, which was a laptop, and was something that I was, back in the day at least, consuming a lot of content for, and I was very aware of, in a game that I was inspired to play, for various reasons that I may or may not have talked about, but basically Smite, MOBA, its first Worlds, I watched that, and I was very inspired by the players there and what occurred, and that eventually kind of spurred me into playing the game. And which is why I like Smite so much. It's like, I don't know, it's something that's always interesting, and I'm kind of I don't want to say a Smite Chad necessarily, but like most games I can do, good in. It's a game that is very kind of like, it revolves around making good decisions, or at least minimizing like bad decisions, which is something that like I can do very easily, and I find myself able to do, with ease. And yeah, like I don't know, Smite's like really simple, and it's a little more actiony. It's, third person MOBA as opposed to the top down of the other, couple of main ones out there. And I don't know, games like Smite and Overwatch and those kind of things are just really up my style, just for like the combination of simplicity but also complexity at the same time. Because the thing about Smite is like the game is actually won on other things, like not even just your play, your builds, your actives, your vision on the map, that kind of thing, how you choose your ganks, how you farm, all these kind of things actually build up into typically whether or not you have a good Smite game or not. And it's just more so the fact that I've been playing it for so long. Gee, I don't even remember. Maybe going on 5, 6, maybe 7 years now? I don't even know at this point. Actually, I could probably find a more apt amount, but definitely at a minimum, I'd say like 5 years. And, you know, those instincts that I've, you know, garnered over the years haven't really gone anywhere. And I've still been able to play recently, and that's something I've just, you know, had a lot of fun with. And, you know, following and refollowing, you know, new and old content creators for the game is something that's just kind of inspiring to know that the game, you know, isn't dead, even though it's kind of like the forgotten child of, you know, the main MOBAs of Dota and League, of course. I mean, I find Smite to be, I would say, better than League and probably equal to Dota in just like how good the game is and like the communities around it in general. Because like everyone knows League for being toxic, and it's like, it's not like Smite doesn't, you know, have toxicity. It's just more so that like I find it a lot easier to like not be that mad, you know, after losing a Smite game. I feel like, you know, older me now kind of accepts the idea that you just will lose games and like you're not gonna win every game. Like you can go on streaks, you can go pretty sicko. You can go pretty sicko mode. But I will say that like, you know, no matter how well I can play in a game, I think it's basically undeniable at this point that there are games that you are just meant to lose, in all honesty. At least in my opinion. So, yeah, like Smite's pretty fun, you know, pretty simple in some ways, not in others, and just all the knowledge I've garnered through the years has just kind of helped me now, you know, get, I'd say, reacclimated to the climate, and I'm starting to queue ranked again, and it's been pretty fun. I've been slowly climbing over time, losing some games here or there, but most of them, honestly, I know it sounds a little arrogant in some regard, but it is kind of factually true if you would dig into the numbers that, you know, it wasn't really my fault in a lot of the games, I would say. So far I've queued, I don't know, maybe like closer to maybe 15 to 20 ranked games, and of my losses, I would say only a handful, maybe 1, 2, or 3 were like, I guess you could even say fully my fault. And the thing about Smite 2 is, more often than not, you have games where, you know, you won't get your role. So, you know, I play mid in Smite, which typically involves mages and burst damage, basically, with abilities. And whenever I get other roles, it's typically pretty clear that I won't do as good for obvious reasons. I've just played way more mid, you know, way more characters that you would take to mid, that kind of thing. And I won't say that like I'm quote unquote inexperienced in the other roles. I can play the other roles. I know the builds around them typically, you know, maybe even the play style, but there will just be a clear difference of me playing mid versus me playing jungle or whatever, or support, right? And support to me is, although probably one of the more important roles, definitely still, even after 5+ years of playing the game, my least favorite role overall. I like hitting hard, you know, I like the big kind of risky plays, I guess you could say, and that kind of thing, and high risk, high reward, etc., etc. And yeah, like Smite's a thing that I'm glad that I found again as something to kind of pass the time, something to listen to podcasts to, and that kind of thing. So yeah, Record of Ragnarok and Smite based. So I'll tell you guys right now, another thing I would say that is a, fuck up or something I'm going to continue on from last episode, is the Attack on Titan finale was not out when I released the last episode. And I did happen to actually say something or things that were not correct, actually, at the time, because, of course, the last chapter not being out. So, the thing I fucked up last episode was I said that Jean and Connie had, died because they turned into Titans. Actually false. Because the way Attack on Titan ended and everything, everyone who turned into Titans, the Titan power is gone. The ability to, Titan shift, or just Titans in general, I think are just all gone, I believe. And I would say that Attack on Titans, finale, it gets memed on pretty hard. But at the end of the day, I don't think it was, I'd say story ruining or anything crazy like that. I would say that it had a fairly mature ending. It was kind of as I was expecting, in the vein of nothing, it won't be wrapped up in a neat bow, one side won't fully win or the other, etc., etc. Because, as I kind of kept saying in the past few episodes, I think even in the last one, I said, do you think the Alliance has won? Even though they did what they did and everything, do you think the Alliance has won? And the answer really was no, because as we figured, 80% of the population of the world, I believe, was wiped out. And, the Jaegerists or whatever were, still a thing. So, that was, really interesting, honestly. And, yeah, I don't know. It gets memed on pretty hard for some of the lines, of course. This, as other people have described, Aaron's kind of weird 180 of, he suddenly is in love with, Mikasa now. I didn't really mind too much, I guess, because, Historia already, fucked off with, a random dude somewhere. And to me, not involving her in the rest of that story kind of, she was written off. It didn't really matter to me that much that Aaron didn't get the royal cooch, I guess. And, I mean, you have Mikasa, though, who's, she's been around for him, the majority of his life. And, I mean, he saved her, and I imagine that she saved him, too, from, the bullying of, the kids or whatever, all the way back then. I don't know, it's kind of weird, I guess, how that's all kind of shuffled out. But, I don't mind it that bad, honestly. I can understand some of the criticisms, some of the, weird character decisions, but it was kind of what I expected, and what I kind of kept saying over these last few months of nothing is, gonna be perfect and all right and okay and, all that shit. So yeah, that was wrapping up some AoT stuff and things from the last episode. Now, another thing that I've done since the last DecompresSean, a new thing, is I more or less binge an entire anime. Monster the anime. Here's my review, pretty based and somewhat kino, I would say. I got shown by Lev. Don't know if you know who that is, but close friend of the show, Lev. He was kind of watching it, and me and Jelly were with him. And I, Monster is a somewhat oldish anime, so there is a playlist of it on YouTube, subbed and dubbed. I actually listened to it dubbed just because that's how we were listening to it at the time. I'm sure there's, some slight translation stuff, but I watched some sub clips and it seemed fairly accurate, at least to me, unless, of course, they were like reverse translating. But anyways, Monster, right? I think it's like 74 episode series. It's like a high tension, like drama-y kind of thing where, oh god, there's so much going on in this show. It's like there is a serial murderer who's like covering it up, but like the kills are really precise for him to kind of move up in the world, so to speak. And he's like he becomes like a secretary for a billionaire, and there's so much going on. There's like hitmen, there's guys who have their information like falsified, and it's a big mystery really too for figuring out who certain characters are and what their deal, quote unquote, really is. And it's a very interesting show in that regard. For I mean, I know it sounds kind of cringe to call it deep or whatever, but there are interesting like philosophical undertones of various kinds, and kind of like dissecting nihilism and whatnot. I will admit that I watched a video on this that kind of went into more detail. Nothing like I wasn't unfamiliar with already, but it did open my eyes to some things about the main antagonist, Johan, and how the show is called Monster, and that's kind of the big theme, really, and or motif, I guess, is the main antagonist is a monster, is like a serial killer, like mass murdering monster, but he's doing it so like precisely and so slyly that like he's not even like really thought of as like at all as a suspect, which is really interesting. And how he, like, Johan frames the main guy, who is Kenzo Tenma. He kind of frames him for a lot of these murders, and like it's just really good. It's a really pretty consistent show in its themes and what it tries to tell, and how everything got started right when the main doctor guy, so he's like a neurosurgeon, absolute like genius in terms of like his talent and whatnot. He saves a kid from a headshot wound, and he does this instead of taking care of a mayor, like an important guy who showed up after the kid. And this sets up the whole like rest of the events for the show, basically, in that the kid he saved was Johan, and because he didn't save the mayor, he got like demoted in his job. And eventually, through some shenanigans, like Johan a long time later comes back, kills one of his patients, and then frames it on him. So then and Kenzo has to then go on the run because of this. And that's basically the events for the majority of the show, plus or minus a few things. But there is kind of a mystery in so many ways, in so many aspects, the entire time, up until even like the last episode, of like quote unquote what actually happened. And the fact that Johan has a twin sister. And there's even one point in the show, one of my favorite episodes was episode 44, I believe, where Johan was actually dressed up and posing as his sister for like a big chunk of it. So it really, like, it's one of those moments, one of those insane moments where it's just like, holy shit. Like, you have to rethink, the last however many episodes of the show to figure who was who in what situation and that kind of thing. And it even keeps up with that theme even till the last episode of the show, where it's like, where everything is revealed, basically. I guess I won't spoil it crazy, but it is a show that's very thematically consistent in that the main guy, Kenzo Tenma, because he's like a, doctor, neurosurgeon guy, he believes that like all human life is like equal and valid and whatnot. And he tries to save everyone, right? Even if they're like, bad or whatever, he will still save them. And he's like, he's a guy who like, sticks to his guns and whatnot, like sticks to his beliefs. And, he doesn't let shit get to him. Which is pretty fucking based, if you ask me. And there's a lot of just crazy shit and all, like imagine, like a social experiment, right? Kind of like how the Joker did it in Dark Knight. But, no, that's exactly what it's like, actually. Except, like, instead of 2 boats, it's a town, and all communication and travel is cut, and he gives a bunch of people guns, basically. And then imagine what happens from there. I bet you could. I bet you could imagine. So yeah, I guess I'll transition topics here once again. In episode 9 of the DecompresSean Cast, you know how it be, you know how it do. It's just a consistent stream of typically unedited consciousness, very low effort, just giving some updates on life, what I've been doing lately. I guess I'll just tell you guys another thing too in the meantime is that, I'm going through school still, of course, full time. Almost done though, about halfway through my final term. And then once that term is over, I will need to take a test out of a class, and that will be my last thing I will need to do to get my associates. And then I will be looking for a job sometime in probably late June, early July, I would say. And I will say that in the meantime, of course, I will be trying my hardest, to get my lecture out. I know that it's taken a long time, but, I feel like I've spent the last 4 or 5 months kind of justifying and explaining why that is the case, for obvious reasons. And if I'll try to remember to throw like a screenshot of what it's looking like, how the timeline is looking right now on the lecture. And I guess the clear thing to keep in mind here is that, if this was a lecture under more, I would say, normal circumstances, you have to think about what that actually entails, right? Because if you think about how the PCP have done it, what they have is, 2 cameras and more than likely at least 2 audio tracks, right? So you have 2 cameras, one facing the audience, one facing the teacher, right? And then you have 2 audio tracks, one for the lapel mic on the teacher, and then one that was like the shared audience mic or whatever, right? So I would say that right there, right? Fairly simple to edit, fairly simple. Because what you're really doing is you're doing like one very simple thing. So it's like if teacher talking, camera on teacher, and using, lapel audio. When audience talking, use audience video and audience mic. So that's only like 2 things to edit? Maybe, max? So like, yes, you're putting in images and text and whatever in afterwards, but I just want you guys to keep in mind that, when you'll see that image on screen, you'll know what I mean now. In that I am editing 8 people's audio tracks, in that I've only, over the last few months, it's mostly just been the syncing. Everything is synced now, I believe. I don't know if I said that in the last episode. Fuck it. I guess this is just lecture update. So, editing has gone well. I don't think I've done that much in the last month, I guess. I mean, I finished that syncing once over between now and then. But, like, that really was the hard part. And now I'm kind of getting into the... I mean, all of it really is hard. Because, once again, like, on the Premiere thing, it's like 8 people's audio and like 5 video feeds, I think. So, while obviously I'm not editing video and not going too crazy on the audio, it's still more. It's more than what, it's more complex than what the PCP, would have with an in-person lecture, So that's sort of what's up with that, I would say. The editing has been, fun, but I wish I could just do more of it, because I'll admit, I'm going very slow. Like, I know that it'll be worth it, but I really should speed things up. And the deal will be, I'll almost be done with school, about a month and a half and some change, and then I will get on it. It should hopefully be nice and wrapped up after. That's how it will be. So, how are commissions going for the lecture? Commissions are going pretty well. I've yet to hear updates from a few individuals, but I think it's just, they're busy, they're working on it. Most of the balls are in other people's courts now. I will say that currently, I believe I have, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 completed and ready commissions for this lecture, which I'm extremely, extremely hyped for. All, of characters that will, make it more clear, and I'll be giving some cool people some shout-outs for that stuff. And in addition, of course, I'm still thinking about guests. That might be a little ways off. Still have all that stuff in mind. But yeah, I guess I should just go over, like, what is still needed currently. So I guess I kind of touched on it a little, but I'll go into a little more detail. So what's still needed, basically, is actual editing, right? So people without video, which I think it was about 3 or 4 people, I need to edit down their audio. People like Cetal, Nonibra, Simon, anyone who didn't have a video, I need to edit their audio. And, I need to cut out all the bullshit, I guess. I don't know. That's just the word I thought of for it. And, and like adding in all the images, all the text, crediting, all that stuff. All that stuff will go on there. And I guess I'll be honest with you guys, like, for the timetable and things. Another reason that this is taking really a lot longer than it otherwise would is my scope for this has kind of gotten a little bigger, I'll admit. I guess this isn't really something I've stated before, I don't think, but for this lecture, for everything, I kind of want it is a story, right? Even the video itself and, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX and everything around it, I kind of want to make it a story, right? Because it is a story. I don't know, maybe that's like really retarded to say, but the point is this. I am kind of like making some extra videos like at the same time, and I'm kind of thinking of like a prologue, main, and an epilogue kind of thing. Like, I know that seems kind of weird, but I think it'll make a lot more sense once I actually do it, because I have ideas for these things. I have things downloaded, things ready to start making these other videos. But I just want to say that that's like, it's not an excuse. I mean, it is an excuse, but like, it's just another reason, that things are going to take a little longer, is me doing just putting in that little more extra effort, really, to, not only release this big video, but have some things in addition to that. you're going to have a main course, but you're also going to have, a dessert and a good drink to go with it or something. If we're just talking in a culinary sense, I don't fucking know. Just trying to make some gay metaphor. But yeah, I guess that is like all the updates for that stuff, for the lecture, for school and all that kind of thing. And I will probably be getting a job sometime after school, but even then, I think that my focus will be a lot more honed in and heightened for finishing this lecture as something that, I've been working on for so long. It just needs to come out fairly soon at this point. I would say, school for me wraps up on the 13th. I'll probably get to work on it not too long after that. But, I'll have to take a test sometime after that. But then after that test is when I will truly be free. The June edition for the DecompresSean will be a really good one, I'd say. So not the next one, but the one after that. That's the keynote one, I would say, to look forward to for, much more updates and much more happiness overall for me as a person, I would say, in that finishing my associates and all that, and getting to go do something, getting to go experience, life more after this. I've been kind of biding my time, sitting in my room doing school for the past, almost 3 years now. And now it's time to move on. Now it's time to do something, mix things up, earn some money, invest in my future, and, try to do better and still enjoy myself along the way, But that being said, I'm still in the muck right now, despite how much and how close I am to, freeing myself kind of from my borderline over-attachment to the internet. I still get pulled back in, as is the case of what I guess I would describe the elephant in the rent-free room of my own head. So, there's something I want to clear up. And, feel free to skip this entire section, because I know a lot of people, won't care or, won't like what I have to say or anything like that. I know that's a common occurrence these days, but this is going to be a real sincerity bro section here of me addressing kind of so Calazar's video, what I had to say about that stuff, and just more of the drama. I don't even want to call it drama, I guess, around best guy ever, quote unquote, and kind of the response and what my response is to all that. So, if you're not aware, there was a video released by Calazar, who's like someone who's like kind of in the community, I guess, so to speak, the kind of greater BGE PCP kind of sphere. In that, surprisingly, he made a video kind of criticizing Best Guy Ever and what he hopes to, what he hopes for him to do, and what he liked about his content, and why he's like concerned and things like that. So it was a video about that, and Nate himself even retweeted and commented under it, which is on Twitter rather, and which was interesting. But you have to understand that, like, even though I surround myself with people who not even necessarily disagree with what I'm saying, it is a small amount of people. It is a small amount of good friends, and seeing someone else hold a similar opinion was something that felt kind of gratifying at the time, in someone finally kind of criticizing him, someone else, not me, finally kind of criticizing Nate, and like, I left a fat comment on that video. And I just think it's kind of cringe how, because people just see long comment, cringe. Long comment, sincere, cringe. And I think that response is kind of like not a very healthy response. And I would say that, mine isn't necessarily either in a way. But at the same time, you gotta understand like the background and the context of the situation and all that kind of thing, and how, I feel like with that comment, I was sincere. It was cringe, yeah, whatever. Like, there's no reason not to admit that. It's just that no one actually fundamentally challenges, the arguments that I've made. And they even, in some cases, agree. They don't even disagree with what I was saying, which is just very interesting for so many reasons. But I guess I'll just get into it in that I did kind of get some backlash for that comment. And I think it's a little too far to say slanderous statements were made about me. But I will say there were just some wrong things, at least in some regards. So after I posted the comment on Kalisar's video, Michelle took it to the ProAnon Discord to, do her thing, openly kind of roast me, whatever. That's fine. But she did say a few things that I feel like I kind of need to defend myself on, or at least were just wrong, right? So there was a statement made, which was just weird to me at least, that, quote unquote, Michelle said there was an email. So I know this is really nitpicky or whatever, but like, it wasn't an email. It was just a Discord message. I don't know why there's confusion in that regard. But last year, I don't even remember. I might have said this on the DecompresSean. I actually don't remember, but in August, I believe, sometime around there, was one of my, I think one of my final months of being a Nate patron was somewhere around there. And I listened to the BG monthly cast for like that month or whatever. And, because of, I don't even remember why, honestly. It might have been me asking about it. I don't even remember, but I messaged Nate for a refund request. And what's funny about this too is that Michelle bringing this up is interesting because Nate didn't want me talking about it publicly, and which I will continue not to do, in the sense of I won't detail what was actually said, but just some like the context around it rather than it itself. So what is so weird to me and so interesting about them bringing this up is that, of course, Nate didn't want me talking about that conversation publicly. He said it himself. So that was like one thing that was kind of frustrating, at least to me, overall, about like the response and all that. Overall, I would say, and yeah, I'm just trying to get my thoughts together about this stuff, but it's just interesting to me how, I even got some response, like a response or two on my comment. Some people agreeing, some people disagreeing. But Nate simps, right? They attempted to respond, and I just still think they're wrong for these reasons, basically. So one of the arguments made was, you need to, quote, take responsibility for putting him on a pedestal and deifying Nate. To which that point, I just don't agree with at all. So you're telling me, right, I'm deifying Nate by holding him to his own standards. Like, that seems kind of ridiculous, doesn't it? And the funniest part about that comment is later on, they don't even disagree. They don't even disagree that he's been burning all his goodwill the last 2 years. They don't even disagree that he's been creating enough content, when that's the basis of the entire argument. It's just funny, really, isn't it? And despite this, you know, I would say that, you know, I just hate that there's conflict about this. I feel like that, you know, people kind of overestimate and overthink things when it's a lot simpler than, you know, than it seems. And despite all this, despite the backlash, the thing you have to understand about me is I'm like a very conflict averse person. In that, I would say that I would say I have like undiagnosed social anxiety, I guess, because I did get sick the day that Michelle responded to me, just because it was a weird situation. And, you know, like I said, I don't really like, you know, fighting with people that much. And at least when I feel that like things are a lot simpler than they seem. Simple and clean is the way that you're making me feel tonight. It's hard to let it go. And like I get the complaints, I get the criticism, length, like, but what beyond that? Like, no one actually challenges, you know, the factual or objective arguments I lay down. And I find that to be kind of what's frustrating to me, is that no one, you know, kind of reciprocates the same values, I guess. And I know it's just the internet, so, you know, fuck it, right? It doesn't really matter. That's just how it is, you know? And I feel overall that my thoughts about this, I mean, I've said it before, but I'll say it again, because why the fuck not? I think the worst part about Best Guy Ever is Best Guy Ever fans. You know, most aren't that good, you know? Most don't actually practice what they preach. And a lot of them, me included if you want to throw me in there, are just cringy as hell. I don't know. Am I crazy? Am I crazy for, you know, holding someone to their own standards? Is that crazy of me, guys? Is that, you know, is that too much for people? I don't know. And another thing that was frustrating to me was, like, at least from what I've kind of looked up, is I think the term parasocial is an incorrect definition for this kind of thing. Because to me, personally, I have never, ever thought that this guy was quote-unquote my friend or anything. Simply, this was a guy who I just looked up to for the messages that he, you know, proclaimed, I guess. And there's a lot more around this, I guess I'll just go into, in that, you know, I am someone who took the messages of Best Guy Ever at face value, you know. I feel that everyone's criticisms of, or at least some criticisms of, you know, me and others aren't very warranted, or are just bad criticisms overall, when I simply am just holding them to their own standard, right? And what's frustrating about this too is just being sincere. Just telling the truth. This kind of thing has resulted in me just being blocked on Twitter by people for basically no reason, who I thought I respected elsewhere. And I guess I've just now realized that some people are kind of shitheads, you know? And this kind of ties into ProAnon and the misconceptions around it, really. In the fact that we do a little trolling sometimes. I don't think that a group of people who more or less has 3 trans individuals in it is transphobic. I don't really believe that. You know, we're not, as much as a meme as it is internally, we're not committing hate crimes. We're not killing trans people. We literally have them in our ranks. And we're, like, they're our friends. Like, I don't really get what's so... Like, no one really knows what ProAnon is, right? So people have these misconceptions that, like, we're, like, these villains, that we're the bad guys, you know, when we're just vibing. It's that simple. People seem to make up and have these little imagined interactions in their head about how, you know, we've bullied them, we've harassed them, and trust me, well, the latter of those two might be true a little bit for some individuals. The consequences for those actions affect the group. Okay? And that's the thing, right? Because in reality, like, we're the only ones who know what's actually going on. But this idea that we don't have to explain ourselves is kind of cringe to me, especially when we're losing out on having never paint on a drawcast, which is something I personally wanted to see, and sucks. And that was just one thing that kind of frustrated me, at least, like, within the last month, I would say, in that, whoops, I'm accidentally launching Isaac, lol. Didn't mean to do that, but yeah, I mean, never paint on a drawcast was something I wanted to see, and I'm sad that that's not going to happen now, just because people were kind of fucking around, I guess, a little too hard. I don't know if, you know, any apologies or understanding was actually achieved from all of this, which is why I don't like the whole, well, we don't have to explain ourselves kind of bit. And I don't know, I guess this is just the typical Sean Sincerity post at this point, but, like, Ben Cord is, like, weird. The internet's a weird place that is ever changing, and we're still navigating this weird landscape, I would say. But yeah, like, I guess I just want to summarize and probably send us off with this point. I just want to let you all know that despite everything I've said, I have thoughts, I have opinions, I have a story to tell, right? So you should really expect these things at this point. You know, if you want me to talk about something, I will go, you know, into detail when I want to, or when I need to, when I have a lot to say. You know, because, you know, I'm someone who kind of gives a fuck, you know? I'm someone who, you know, despite everything, you know, I try to show people the mirror, you know? I try to, you know, take people at face value, you know, sometimes even to my detriment. And at the end of the day, I move forward. And I just want to clarify that, you know, I'm not someone who's so obsessive and schizo, and I wake up every single day rueing how I was slighted by some random YouTuber. But I'm just someone who took the messages of Best Guy Ever at face value, and someone who tangibly, you know, improved myself and changed my life for the better over the last 3 to 4 years. And I'm just someone who looked to have that sentiment and those ideas reciprocated. But to be honest with you, these last 2 years in that regard have just been nothing but disappointment. There's nothing wrong with that, and I'll see you next time on the DecompresSean Cast. Bye. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the second part of this DecompresSean Cast. I guess it's a little interesting that this is going to be stitched together in the same video, is my plan, and, I'm recording this almost a month later, after the last, 50 minutes or so that you just listened to. And I wouldn't say anything crazy, or at least too crazy, has developed between now and then. But yeah, I guess I'm just going to continue, this is kind of like another episode being, recorded almost a month later, like I said. So, yeah, unfortunately, this little video here is going to be a little long since I'm combining these. And, sorry for kind of missing, these last months. Just kind of, down in the muck, getting busy. You know how it be, you know what it do. Pretty sure I said it in the last 50 minutes, school almost done. About another week and a half, I'll definitely be done by, I want to say the 13th, or probably that week, something like that. And then, things will happen. That's all I'll say, things will happen. So what you're most likely seeing right now, at least on screen, is probably just going to be some muted Smite gameplay, just because that's kind of what I decided to do, so I wasn't going to double render, 2 waveforms, And, Smite, pretty fun in the meantime. It's kind of like I already said in the last little bit, but, I've had a lot of fun. SPL finally started back up, Smite Pro League, and watched some of that today. Fell asleep for the second set, but I do know the results of both of them, which is something that I might go watch after recording this, in all honesty, this set that I missed. And yeah, so what has happened between now and then? Interesting things, maybe, who knows? Let's get into it. One thing that I started between now and the last DecompresSean, which is also this DecompresSean, which is pretty funny. So, unfortunately, Kentaro Miura died, the author of Berserk, and that was something that, hit a lot of people hard for various reasons, and Berserk was something that, I was kind of always told was pretty damn good. So I will say that, whether it be deemed fortunate or unfortunate, his death, definitely spurred me on to begin reading it. Now, I'm not very far, and after all, I'm a pretty chunk style worker that, I don't know, work isn't really the right term for it, I guess, but you kind of know what I mean, right? So I kind of do things in big chunks. I'm only up to chapter 23 currently, so not that far. They're about to assault the Tudor castle or some shit. So yeah, not that far. And like I said, that sort of stuff, it's unfortunate. I don't know what the deal is, if they're going to continue or not. That's something that's interesting, and I guess we'll see. I think they said that they wanted to, but, we'll find out. And yeah, Rip Miura, Berserk seemed to have some pretty good music and OSTs and stuff that people liked, and I hope that I'll get into it someday, along with everyone else, and I'll be able to kind of feel the weight of him dying. And it sucks that, he died from what he died from. I think it was what was it? It was something with a heart or a artery or something, and it was stress induced. That shit just kind of feels bad, man. I've heard all the tales. There's some great work, some great artwork, some great moments, and I hope that I'll get to all those things soon. In the time to come, probably this summer. I would say that, although low on the priority list, of course, it's on my list. something for me to do. It's open in a tab on my phone, rather. And I'm looking forward to it. So I'm looking forward to becoming a Berserk Chad. So that being said, one thing that, I kind of harked on it in the last little while, but it's even more prevalent now, just because I'm so close, is that, school for me is almost done. And it is so close to being done. It is so tantalizing. I can fucking taste it. The freedom that I will get soon. And, I'm just so goddamn excited. I can finally, like I said before, once I pass that final test, that I'll need to do for testing out of my final class, like, that will be true freedom. And it'll feel really good. And, that moment will come this month. So by the next DecompresSean Cast, you will probably hear a very happy me. And who even knows what I'll be doing then. I'll probably, be doing a lot of things. Hopefully I'll have done some editing by now. And I guess I'll get to more of that shit later. But yeah, I'm just really excited to be getting into White Boy Summer, lads. White Boy Summer. So, another thing I'd like to talk about very quickly is Sonic, right? There's the Sonic Anniversary this year, and I noticed some interesting things in that I actually liked some of the... I guess I'll just say my opinion. I kind of delineate in how there was like a golden age of Sonic, right? And, I have the more zoomer take on this kind of thing. So the ones that I really liked a lot were Unleashed, Colors, and Generations. Those three were my favorites in terms of music, story, OST, and just overall, like, the mechanics and the levels, how memorable it was, those kinds of things. And I would say I am a low-key Sonic head, and I'm kind of looking forward for what's to come. They showed a very, very light teaser in their little anniversary, like, direct parody kind of thing. Like, Nintendo Direct parody is what I mean by that. And I'm looking forward to that shit, too. I guess this is kind of the year where, I'd say last year was probably, for everyone, for various reasons, kind of darker and, not that hopeful. But I would say going into, this year and this summer, I'm really on, like, the hopium right now, I would say, and just various means and reasons and, tons of things. Sonic is even just one little thing. The Sonic games kind of has been doing the typical kind of corporation shit and has been bad, like, for the last several years, I would say. I mean, we all know that Forces was kind of a flop, and I didn't really understand it, to be honest. Honestly, I probably should do some sort of research. Like, I never figured out who like Infinity was or whatever the fuck. I guess I can just fucking Google that right now because it doesn't fucking matter. This is the DecompresSean Cast. This is a constant stream of consciousness that is, not very edited and whatnot. It is Infinity, right? Infinity? Yeah. Who's Infinity? Sonic fandom. Okay, who's Infinity? The ultimate mercenary. The secondary antagonist. Wait, what? Secondary antagonist in Sonic Forces. An anthropomorphic jackal and the former captain of the Jackal Squad mercenary group. During a raid, was hired by Eggman, only for him and his squad to fall at the hands of Shadow. Ashamed of his loss, Infinite decided to obtain the power of the Phantom Ruby, not only as a means of becoming stronger, but also to abandon his, quote, weak past self. So who is relationships? What are relationships? Infinite trying to attack Shadow. I'm so confused. This is so confusing to me. Well, Sonic lore. We need a Sonic lecture, bros. Jesus fucking Christ. Jesus, man. What is up with this? This is a whole ass wiki page. I don't know if I can read this. Jesus. Okay, yeah, I ain't reading all that shit. Yeah, Sonicheads though, rise up. It's time. It's our time, bros. So another thing I like to talk about is something I've started, or I guess I'd rather say restarted recently, is watching kind of low impact Let's Plays. So specifically, I'm watching an XCOM 2 Let's Play right now, where the videos for it are being released, I think, more or less daily, and that's something that I'm just kind of like generally looking forward to in my day, because XCOM is something that I really, really enjoy to watch, you know, and it's like a high stakes game, you know, it's like what's its genre called? I don't actually know. It's like tactical, tile-based strategy game, I guess. I guess that would be the terminology. I don't know. There might be a more specific, more accurate word for that kind of thing. But yeah, that's something that I've been looking forward to. I just like watching XCOM, you know. Seeing someone with like a 90x, you know, percent chance to hit and missing. Always funny, always kino. And especially the guy that I'm watching too. I would highly recommend, if you're really content starved and like some of the games he plays like Civ and stuff, and you guys know I like Civ. So he also plays XCOM. You know, they're made by the same people, right? Firaxis. And you know, him playing XCOM, you know, and because I knew him from like playing Civ and stuff, it's pretty based, and you kind of like get an attachment sort of for like the characters and whatnot, and you know, for like his highest ranked soldier and all that kind of thing. And also him naming the characters, like after his patrons and stuff, pretty fucking ballin'. And once I get a steady source of income, he is someone who I wouldn't mind patroning, especially if I got any of those kind of rewards. I think that would be really fucking based. I don't think his campaign is a long war, but you know, if it's not done in like this month or next month, then I guess my hopes would be pretty high for me to patron and hopefully get in there, but I guess we'll see. And yeah, so Marbozir, Marbozir. He has about 100,000 subscribers, little over, and he's just someone who's like, he's like your OG YouTuber. Like, he's been posting like every day nonstop for ages, for like as long as I can remember. And you know, his content is like, obviously I know it sounds bad on the surface level to have like quantity over quality, but you know, you just gotta pick and choose your poison, right? For, you know, what games you'd like to see. You know, if you know, for me, right, I like Civ and XCOM, so I don't really watch a ton of his other stuff, but his content is a very good, you know, just evergreen content, you know, big ol' Let's Plays, and most of them are in playlists, and they're just kind of there, you know, and you can just kind of go back and watch them whenever you want to. And because I honestly skipped watching XCOM 2 at first because I didn't really get it, and to this day, I still kind of don't. It kind of retread a lot of the old ground that XCOM 1 did, and I guess it did, like, watching it now, it doesn't seem that bad, but I would say that, like, the ending was, like, kind of a retread of the first one's ending. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but I don't know if there's even any XCOM heads out there or even listening to this, but hey, that's something I've enjoyed and felt passionate about lately and just wanted to mention here. So, yeah. Another thing I like to mention that kind of ties into this is I acquired true wireless headphones, right? After my old ones broke, and I would say so far they've been worth every fucking cent. They were about $70. They're TrebLab X3 Pros. And they've just been balling for me. They've been absolutely killing it. Man, Bluetooth, whoever invented Bluetooth is a fucking G. I'm just gonna Google that right now. That's probably something that I should know. But, like, maybe there's not a specific person to point to. Let's see. Niels Rydbeck. The development of the short-link radio technology, later named Bluetooth, was initiated in 1989 by Niels Rydbeck, CTO at Ericsson Mobile in Lund, Sweden. Oh, that's pretty fucking ballin'. Shoutouts to Niels Rydbeck. Man, who would have guessed that? Who would have guessed I'd shout out the creator of Bluetooth on this episode of the DecompresSean Cast? I find that pretty fucking funny. So, I guess there's only a handful of things more I'd like to get into while I'm still here, but they'll probably be slightly more lengthy and detailed, which is kind of why I saved them for the end here. And, of course, that's kind of more follow-ups in general about, you know, what I've kind of done in the last month in terms of lecture and how there hasn't really been any crazy, like, drama developments, but I just want to give some clarifying notes and answer some questions. So, one thing that, you know, I'd like to answer that was asked in the meantime in this last month was 2 episodes ago, actually. Someone asked this in a Discord. In the episode, you mentioned you'll be able to put all your focus on the lecture after leaving school. Does it worry you at all that Nate had the same mindset about his content in leaving work? So, the answer for this, I would say, in my opinion, is I am significantly less worried about that because I'm not getting paid for this. So, you know, there isn't really... See, like, I don't have a pressure, right? So in some aspects, that's a good thing, and in some aspects, that's a bad thing. And what I would say is that, you know, once the weight of school is lifted off of me, I would say that there's no reason for me to start working on this, you know? I would say that there's a small chance that either I might not have my test done, or I might have it scheduled maybe for, like, after the next decompression, but I guess we'll find out when we get there, you know? I would say that, you know, I'm definitely going to try to do that in June if I am allowed to. I don't know, also, if I'm going to have to go in for this test or not. I believe I can do it from home, but since COVID restrictions are sort of, you know, being relaxed, they might want me to go in. Not too certain in that regard, I would say. But yeah, like, I'm, you know, a lot less worried about kind of pulling a Nate. It's kind of like I said, I don't know if it was in the last episode or the one previous, but, like, if my lecture isn't out in December, like, you guys have full rights to fucking blow me out of the water, you know? Fucking kill me, noose me, lynch me, whatever, I don't give a fuck. But I, obviously, you never want to guarantee anything, right? But, like, soon, you know, I would say in the next few months, you know, I would say to expect it, you know, I would say, you know, it's in my channel about section, I changed it a couple months ago, like, you know, optimistic for a July release. That honestly still might be a little over optimistic, but, you know, we'll see. I would say, you know, a big deal with that, I guess I'll just lead into lecture update, is that, like, you know, I've kind of felt, you know, the need to, you know, go a little harder at school. You know, I definitely slacked in a couple regards, but, you know, I really buckled down these last few months, and I would just say that, it's kind of unfortunate, but I almost want to say I haven't even worked on the lecture, like, in the last 2 months. I guess that's kind of a broad definition. I mean, there's definitely things that I have done, but, the actual editing, the actual, chopping of the content, that kind of thing. I don't think I've done that stuff in a while. I do want to say like 2 months. I would say the month of May and the month of April were pretty fucking slow in that regard. I know that I want to say either in the last episode or the one previous, I finished the what was it? The syncing, like all the sync editing, and like took out all of our syncs like after I synced it. And I think I'm about like an hour or so in. I think you'll see it on the screenshot previously, but I'm doing a lot of time coding and stuff as well, because I want like people to be able to skip around to like the relevant section or sections that they want. If they just want season 1, if they just want season 2, 3, or 4, if they want to listen to the pre-GX stuff, if they want the post-GX stuff. I want people to go to the relevant sections. And I'm kind of doing a very nitty-gritty like documentation of that stuff. And even then, I might have to adjust it if I add in any more video of any kind. So we'll see if it's even worth it. Which is why I might honestly just switch to the editing now, just in case I wasted my time on time coding stuff. And I'll see what I do with that. But yeah, so we'll see in that regard. Commissions are probably as slow as they have ever been, just because I have so many that are done and ready. I would say that, honestly, I'm more worried about getting my own shit together before, having anyone else get harassed, let's just say. Obviously, I'm kind of memeing there, but, that's, I guess, the lecture update and the fact that there's still a lot of things that are necessary, I would say. Let's just say that, summer 2021, probably. I don't think, like I said, school, obviously, the major setback will be out of the way momentarily. And, all of my free time, I don't want to say all, but most of my free time will then be able to put into finishing this bitch up. I think it's about time we need this content in the world, I would say. And another follow-up thing that I just forgot to answer, by the way, was I got asked a question by my good friend Cito. And it took me a while to answer this, to be honest. And the question was, what did you even like about Best Guy Ever? And I guess, if I've learned anything in the past year and a half, maybe more, I would say maybe I just don't like Best Guy Ever, but I liked the messages that he talked about and that he, presented. So I guess that's just a summary of everything I kind of said in this last, over an hour by now, I assume. And I know I've kind of been bouncing around on the topics here, but I just kind of got off track on the notes. But another thing I'd like to mention is thanks. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I don't know why, but one of my old Damn Scribblendo fucking videos is just popping right now. It's just like a funny meme clip of like Zane, like the first usage of Power Bond. And for whatever reason, right, this video has like, what is it? It's like almost 3,000 views and gained me like 9 subscribers or some shit, or maybe a little less than that, maybe like 7. But still, that's just really random and funny and kind of like gives me some more of that hopium, you know, like I was saying earlier. Like, this is why you should post content, because, like, it's just all about the evergreen stuff. Like, you never know, right? What will just randomly get caught up in the algorithm and just pop off. Like, I just find that extremely funny, and, like, you know, obviously that fucking gives me the dopamine, rather. I'm about to say dopium. What the fuck is dopium? Dope and copium? Dopium? I don't know. That's great. But yeah, honestly, lads, that's kind of all I got for you. And I don't want to be holding you here too long. So I hope you enjoyed the last 2 months of my life update. And keep moving forward out there, lads. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.